Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. I don't know why some managers get angry when their team do exactly what he said. If you get angry by it, you don't know how to express what you want, or worse, don't know exactly what you want. Either case, you're a bad manager. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I must fulfill the guest demands to the best of my ability? Yes, ma'am. Edit for clarity. Agent and client are same person. So a few years ago, I used to work at a country estate. It was the neoclassical Palladian Mansion, to give it its proper title, and is a listed building that was restored and won prestigious titles for the restoration. The important thing to note is this is defined as a house, not a hotel, so there's no permanent staffing rotation for the butlers or waiting staff. We were offered shifts for events, and the only permanent staff were management, groundskeepers, spa staff, and the chef. This means the waiting staff had very little protection in terms of working hours, etc. This place often attracted the kind of money that people paid other people to organize their holiday for them, and was something to equivalent of 5 stars plus. I'd earned a reputation with these agents, who were repeat clients, as one of their favorite staff on a first-name basis, brought them coffee in their morning meetings, etc. In particular, this story came after one New Year's event these clients had run, where I worked 20 hours non-stop on Hogmanay, New Year's Eve. The management staff totally changed soon after this event. The new management structure comprised of a new GM and a front of house, FOH, and back of house, BOH, deputies. They weren't really aware of previous staff track records and simply had a list of names of staff for call-in. I immediately got on with both new GM and BOH. They liked my ideas and often implemented them. I knew the house very well and what unexpected issues happened. Instead of FOH's ideas, and this irked FOH somewhat. She would try to reduce hours I was offered or ask me to complete impossible tasks at times, such as running a 5-star plus dinner service alone for 20 guests for over an hour, while she pulled other staff away for other stuff. The most important line she ever said, though, when I said I needed help at points was, "You must do everything within your power to make sure the guests are happy, Bob. Any demand they make, you do your best to meet it." This irked me, as, given the reputation of the place, I knew that was already a given. I knew it was speak, not unless spoken to, and if they asked you to dance like a chicken for their enjoyment, you did it. Malicious compliance began simply waiting to happen. Fast forward a couple months to another event organized by the specific repeat clients, a diamond wedding anniversary. The event just so happened to coincide with a Six Nations rugby game. Me and one other staff member were massive rugby nuts and would regularly talk about it in downtime, and it just so happened one of the repeat clients was also a fan. It was a standard afternoon session in the house, many people in many different rooms, and I just so happened to be working from the butler pantry across the TV room inside, which is an old man. Let's call him Stanley. He's sharp as a tack, but lovely, and he's chatting to the client with the rugby on the TV, saying he wished he had someone to watch it with. The client mentions I like rugby to him, and he says, "Oh, it'd be grand if you could join an old fella to chat." And as much as I'd love to, I politely decline as I'm on shift, although I do mention that my job is to do everything within my power to ensure the guests are happy and meet their demands as best I can. Stanley has a twinkle in his eye, and the client gets this look on his face of, "Oh no," as Stanley turns to me and says, "Very well then, I demand you sit and watch the rugby with me and talk with me." So naturally, I just follow on and reply, "Of course, sir, certainly, sir." And meanwhile, the agent, struggling so hard to keep a straight face, the veins popping out his head, nearly punched me. After all, I was just following demands to the letter. Soon enough, word gets back to FOH, and she comes in with this unique face of polite rage and asked why I wasn't serving other guests, and Stanley just pipes up saying, "I demanded he sit with me, and he's fulfilling my demand to the best of his ability." I just looked and shrugged with the straightest face possible, and also trying to crack a crap-eating grin slightly too. She starts going red, and the client comes in and tells her it's true before she politely storms off to the GM, who I'm told by BOH burst into laughter upon hearing the story in her office. Spent the rest of the match getting Stanley drinks and talking to him and the client about the game. Got paid for it all, too. And our second story. You want me to move? Anything for you, not disabled individual. I was debating putting this story on r/Entitledparents because, well, it does include one, but I decided against it since it does include some of my best malicious compliance work. Plus, I run into enough entitled idiots to have a record book full of encounters that would fit that subreddit better. So, a little backstory. I struggle with many chronic illnesses, most of which are invisible. I use a cane for balance purposes most days, but if I'm having a really bad day, I'll use my walker or sometimes even my wheelchair. Just depends. On this fateful day, I had my walker with me. It's about 15 pounds, and I don't have a ramp on my car, so usually someone from my school will help me get it out during the week. I arrived at school late this day. I usually get there around lunchtime, so everyone was already in class at the time. The area my school is in we'll call Entitledville, for reasons you'll soon find out. It's a very small private school with around 200 to 250 kids and is also right across from a public elementary school. The area around it has very limited parking, but I luckily catch a handicap spot that's never taken but is quite far away and is no use when I have a walker. I take that spot on a normal day because I feel bad taking the handicap spot right in front of my school since there's a restaurant next to it that has a lot of wheelchair-bound customers. This specific day, however, I need to be right next to the ramp. It was already going to take energy and effort to lift the walker, so I knew I wanted to be as close to the ramp as I could be. But there was one problem with that. As I drove to the parking lot, there was somebody parked in the spot, sitting in their car with no placard. Placard equals blue or red handicap thingy. Now, I'm a calm person, and I would like to assume that the lady sitting in the driver's seat had a placard and just didn't hang it up or something. People forget things after all, but this is Entitledville. I know full well that she doesn't have one. Normally, I just let it go and park next to her, which luckily was an open spot, but I already wasn't feeling well, and I guess that made me a little more irritable than normal. So I parked in the space next to her, rolled down my window, and stuck my cane out to tap her window. It took a few taps before she flipped her bleached hair to the side and rolled down her window about an inch. AM stands for A-hole mom here. AM, stop tapping on my window. Me, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you forgot to put your placard up. AM, I don't have one, sweetie. She didn't say that nicely at all, and little did she know I'm not a sweetie when it comes to parking justice. Me, ma'am, the fine for parking in a handicapped spot without a placard is $250. Normally, I don't try and be this blunt, but I have a walker I need to use, and I need the ramp to... AM, I'm just waiting for my son to get out of the restaurant name here. Me, and how long will that take? AM, give him half an hour. Me, ma'am, I have class. AM, then just get out and walk. It's not that far. The lady then rolls up her window and crawls back into whatever Facebook hole she was looking at on her phone. At this point, I was fuming, so I was going to get my justice. I get out of my car and walk around to the trunk to lift my walker out and place it on the ground behind the lady's car. Disclaimer, no, I was not out of sight of this lady. I was also far enough back so if she didn't see me with whatever fancy Mercedes backup camera she had, I still would have time to move. And there I was, waiting for her child to come back. Watching, observing. Almost an hour goes by and I finally see a child around maybe 7 years old run out from the restaurant and run up to his mom's car. Side note, who just lets their kid roam in a restaurant for an hour or more? The child hopped into his mother's car, and as she began to back up, she stopped abruptly and jumped out of her car. AM, what the hell are you doing? Move! Me, all right. She oddly smiles like she just won and didn't see anything else coming. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. Sure, I'll move. I got up from the walker, it has a seat on it, and that's where I sat for an hour and started walking. Very slowly towards the ramp. I periodically looked over through the car window to see the lady banging her hands against the wheel, honking the horn and screaming some things I can't even say here in front of her child. After around 5 minutes, I get near the end of her car, but still not far enough for her to leave, so she gets out of the car and starts screaming again telling me that she's going to call the Entitledville police and have me arrested for harassment. I'm not an idiot, but she sure is. What was I doing in that 5 minutes of walking behind her car so that she couldn't leave? Calling them myself. I at least wanted to see this rabid creature fined. I'd been waiting there for at least an hour, of course. I wish I could say that the police came right as she threatened me, but even having a school next to a police station doesn't make them any faster. After the whole thing, I went inside and my dean was mad that I wasn't there sooner. When I told him what happened, he wasn't as mad as he was proud. Sadly, didn't get me an A in geography. So yeah, just walk an extra few feet if you don't want to deal with me. There's a reason handicap parking spots are the ones closest to the building, and there's a reason you can get fined for parking in one. Why can't people understand that? And our last story. The HOA wanted $175,000 in dues. I have an elderly coworker who lives in an HOA townhome. It was a place her parents left to her when they passed away. She's been there the last 20 years about. She recently got her bill for the next month's dues, and they included an expense of $1,500 for painting. She had to actually call them for an explanation since it's titled as Special Assessment with no indication of what it really is. She talked with a few of the neighbors who also said they had no idea what this was for until she told them she called and said it was for painting. She said they're supposed to get at least 3 different quotes and has not seen the actual quote from the painters. There are 116 units, and this would be a total of $175,000 if everybody paid. She rallied most of the residents of the complex to sign a petition and file a complaint. She's worried for everyone else but herself, and I think it's really kind of her. She said this was a new property management that took over a couple of months ago. She also is going to ask them why they're doing the painting when there's more serious structural damages that need repairs to the entire community. At the end, residents stopped getting bills with ridiculous prices for dues. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.